Good morning. We have this live windows to make several things happen this morning. We're excited about today's agenda. It's going to take us through maybe towards the noon. And we're excited about everyone that has joined us today. So much appreciative of the fact that we are live again. And this is our second live streaming. And we are going to start right away. We have some teasers for us today to exploit some of the things that must have been happening around us, and then to also find the opportunity to just kind of exploit the things that are happening in Canada, in America, across the globe, and for those that are so much interested in moving to this side of the world. It's also an avenue for you to know some topical issues around immigration, around borders, around things that are very germane to the government policies in North America. Because again, these are the information that you need for you to be able to cross the border. And for those that have the plans to, visit, is also an avenue for you to do the same, just to be well informed. And at the same time, for Canadians and Americans who are living here, uh, have their livelihood here, their families here, their job, their career, everything built and centered around Canada, it's also an avenue for us to talk about some of the issues that are, bothering some of us, some of the things that we are concerned about. I've had the opportunity of having to talk to folks on the street who are sharing the same concern. I personally too am in the same boat, just like you are. The most important thing is for us to keep fighting, keep believing, keep going, and obviously things are going to get better and better and better in this part of the world. We just have to know that things are not expected to just work miraculously. Things have to be well planned, well prepared by our leaders, making sure that folks who are living here in Canada, in America, in North America, basically are happy that their government is doing something about their issues. The government is attending to topical issues, some of the concerns that they may have. And for those that might be interested, let's say, in moving to this part of the world or visiting or maybe coming for schools as well, for the folks to also have these assurances that they are not forgotten and things are going to get better and better and better. So, I mean, this particular live streaming is very informative, very educative, very insightful for people that want to know more about different topics, different issues around North America. And it all started, you know, uh, 2 months ago, where I had the opportunity of talking to folks on the street, and that gives me the opportunity of having, several conversations around immigration, tariff, economy, market, that's financial market, housing, issues around homelessness, issues around, job security, schooling, name it. We have the opportunity of talking to folks, and the live stream is a platform for us to be able to discuss some of these issues and how it's going to affect us as ordinary people and how we can navigate around this issue at the same time. So again, TOD, which is Today Open Diary, is a platform for sharing these insightful, real world topics. Canada and America seems to be like the gateway to the world, and we have been featuring ordinary people and highly skilled individuals, who we have engaged on this platform. So, but today we are going to be continuing on the Canada and US relations and how it affects people and how it affects the citizens and even non-Canadians and non-Americans at the same time. And today also, we are bringing to our awareness that we have three integrated identity as a channel for today's Open Diary. Our TOD content ecosystem evolve around how those interview where we ask the public, the live streaming that we're having now where we discuss the issue in depthly, and the podcasting, part of it is going to be launched in the coming months, and that will go deeper with experts and guests where we'll be able to have those conversations. Then we have so many short videos that you can always pop into, even after this live stream. We have over 280 videos, both long videos and short videos that you can always just pop into them, view them. There are topics that would very much be insightful and that you would definitely want to look into. So we are pulling the best moment from all of these integrated identities that we have, and to also make long videos as well. The longest video we have on the platform now, I don't think it's up to 30 minutes, but there will come a time that we have very long videos, maybe like an hour or an hour and a half, because again, we're going deeper, diving deep into this conversation with experts and guests who will most likely will be enlightening us more and more about these issues. And some of these issues are Canada-US relations, the tariff, the tension around the trade war, the rising cost of living here, and how you should be prepared if you're ever thinking of maybe moving to Canada. And at the same time, housing, border security, the building and the opening of the opening of the Godial Bridge, and so many other bridge, that kind of connect Canada and the States together. We have the brain teaser. The brain teaser is for our engagement. Please try to look into the brain teaser and respond in the chat. The chat is meant for conversations, and please, if you can, let us know where you are, dialing from, where you're watching from. Put it in the chat. If you may not necessarily have to be particular about the location to say, "Oh, I am calling from." Sorry, I'm viewing actually from maybe a particular country, but you may just put the continent there. Oh, I'm viewing for Africa, I'm viewing for North America, I'm viewing for Asia, I'm viewing for, just put it in the chat. That will just make us to, understand the continent, the geography of the people that are listening to this live streaming. So now today, the major topic, Canada-US tension. I mean, there are various views around it. There are perspectives around the issues between Canada and the state. Long before this time, the two countries have always lived together as brothers, and this shared Canada and the US share the longest border in the world. If you take the borders in Canada, you will really, really be amazed how long this border is. If you start from like BC, and you go down to the Atlantic province, like Nova Scotia, for instance, and then New Brunswick and the likes, you will see how long this border is, and how wide it is, and how sometimes even technical these borders are. You will find out that there's a particular library that the half of the library is Canada, half of the library is United States, and it's so funny sometimes the way these borders are so integrated to each other. You'll find a particular road, like a highway, a mini kind of highway where part of it is Canada, the other lane, one of the lanes is Canada, the other lane is the United States. So it's so integrated. You also find that the some of the lake, the ocean, the rivers are also very much integrated in such a way that half of it is Canada, half of it is United States. And many times, sometimes when we go through, let's say, if I take for instance, we go through the border between Buffalo. Buffalo is in New York, and Niagara. And Niagara is the Canadian side of it. So, and you're just at the Niagara Fall, you see that the other side of the state, United States, when you are just at the, Canadian side, and you could see the United States afar off just across the river. And if you are at Buffalo and you're standing there, experiencing and enjoying the views of the Niagara Fall, you will definitely be seeing the side of Canadians as well. And you will see the people, just enjoying the views, connecting, working, and just having fun, right? And this has been the way Canadians and Americans have lived for many, 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 not even years, decades. I have friends, I have people that would just literally drive down to the border, and they just go for shopping. Maybe sometimes they go, to buy gas and, for putting gas into their cars. And it's not a big deal. People do it like every day, kind of a thing. And I personally too, if I have to go down, drive down to the border, I will get to like the border within 30 minutes. I'm already at the border, and that's how Canadians lived with the Americans, and that's how integrated Canada and US is, for many, many years. And that is changing gradually, but at the same time, things will. I'm very optimistic that things perhaps will get back to the normal or the way they were before. They might not necessarily be exactly the way they were before, but trust me, they would definitely, they would definitely, there will be some adjustment there and there, whether from the Canadian side or from the American side, because this cannot drag longer and longer and longer. Because the more it does drag longer and longer, the more it hurts both economy, on both sides of the house. Because again, in my opinion, nobody seems to be benefiting from this. Because when you keep, getting into tension of this nation, on nature, strengthening the North American economy, and that needs to be strengthened. There's a part of the Arctics. It's a place where we should be looking at the security part of it, and where Canadians and Americans need to strengthen their security relationship, and that's is not changing. Because again, there are reports that I've read that even point to the fact that when it comes to security and military cooperation between the two countries, they still continue to cooperate. They still continue to share intelligence. They continue to share information, data with each other as a countries. Because again, whatever happened in politics should not necessarily affect how integrated the military and the security of Canada and America has been for years. And the other part of it that we need to bring to our attention is also the fact that when it comes to the not just the military, like the space, every one of us must have watched Jeremy, who happens to be a Canadian, and he joined his American counterparts, to go to space. These are historical events, historical stories that we're going to hear for decades and years to come. So we have to find a way, and we're encouraging our leaders to find a way to bring back this relationship, so that people doesn't get hurt. People are worried about their jobs, and for folks who have jobs now in Canada, in the state, I will say that just hold on, hanging there. Things will get better. It might not come immediately, but they will. And I won't shine away from the fact that people are also worried about their jobs, because when that is affected, people might just they would just lose their insurance. They will lose their insurance, and some people also might stand the chance of losing their houses because they have to pay mortgages that they pay were from the salary that they receive, and at the same time some people might not be able to pay their bills, and what happens, the economy suffer, the people become homeless. Is something that we don't want for our country. And thankfully, yesterday there was a report that the gross domestic product of Canada bounced back. We enter into a technical recession, second quarter of 2026, and um, some of the critics of the government were very, very loud when it comes to that particular story that came at the time in second quarter of 2026. They were very critical of the government. And part of the criticism was that the government of Canada was the only government that drove us into technical recession among the seven G7 nations. And that's true because now you take all this G7 nation, none of them is in technical recession. None of them enter into recession. Despite the tariff from the United States, despite the tension, despite the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, despite the increase in gas prices, they were very resilient and they head on very firmly. But then again, Canada entered into technical recession in the second quarter of the year, and people were critical of that, and you won't blame them for being critical of that. But what happens? Yesterday, there was a report that the Canadian gross domestic product bounced back to 3.3%, which is a good news and a very very, very critical sector that's really, contributed significantly to that was the oil and gas sector. And that, again, we all know is in Abara. And that has been some of the, the position of the Abara, that you can't just come and begin to be hard on our economy. And you won't blame some of them too, because we had the government, the former administration, who were very, very, very strong on uh, climate change, came up with different policies that seem in some ways to be affecting the economy of the province itself. But things have changed, right? And again, the oil and gas sector really, really drove the gross domestic product of Canada. And that was very, very critical to making sure that the gross domestic product bounced back. In fact, it was unexpected. People were very, very surprised about this particular numbers. And again, the oil and gas sector is something that is very important. And for the Canadians, and especially the Canadians in the province of Alberta, and in particular, their premier doesn't want the oil and gas of Alberta to be on the table as far as negotiating with the United States is concerned. That is no go area for her because again, she believes that if you do that, then the American government will come very hard on the province oil sector, and it's going to be really, really devastating for the province. And she was really, really, really against it, even though the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, and some other premiers were of the view that everything should be on the table. But, Alberta doesn't want that oil and gas to be on the table. Again, it's going to hurt the economy because, again, that's the major sector for the province of Alberta. I mean, again, they are going into their own referendum. It's a different topic entirely. I don't want to digress into that. But if you are living in Alberta, just so you know, shout out for you guys. I am of the opinion that you should try as much as possible to remain in Canada, because it's a lovely place to be. You're going to enjoy, being a Canadian, even in your referendum. People are suggesting to your province leadership that they should at least shift the date for the referendum, not to happen at this time that Canada is having a very tense moment, with the United States. But the premier was very adamant. She doesn't want to take into that suggestion. She just want to go straight on into this particular referendum. And again, people feel that if the some of the candidates, because again in Quebec there's going to be a provincial election that will be coming up very soon, and part of the candidates were saying that they are not going to drive Quebec into referendum voting because again, not at this time of Trump presidency, because they believe that that's not Team Canada. Team Canada should be strong. Team Canada should be united. Team Canada should do things, as one and not necessarily be divided at this time. And I kind of buy into that idea as well. As a country, even should I happen to be an American, I don't want a situation where the country is divided when you have, serious negotiation going on at this time, because it could be like a kind of a lacuna or a gap, that the other party can take advantage of. So at this time, we believe that the this each province is forming to be coming together and seems to be doing things as one. But there are still hiccups there and there when it comes to dealing with the United States. There seems to be like, okay, let's do things together as Team Canada to be able to, face the United States of America in this tense moments. But again, we know that it's not the way it is like in reality. In reality, some of these premiers are still, very, very protective of their own province. And you wouldn't want to say they shouldn't be, rightfully so, they should do that. And at the same time, I believe that while you're doing that, you should also be conscious that there's only one country. We only have one country, that we called that we called Canada. So we also are thinking very strongly that Canada should not be too dependent on the states, because Canada needs to diversify. Not just Canada, even the EU. The EU, I mean, for many, many years, all these countries have, heavily dependent on America. And it's unfortunate because now America is thinking that we can't just carry the shoulder, the weight of every country. And the current administration feels that the state is being taken advantage of. I mean, they have some fair points there. And at the same time, there will be some argument that will say, hey, America has been like the leader of the free world. America has been, championing democracy across the globe. America has been the country who whose leadership has been admired by so many other countries of the world. And part of it is the diversity, how integrated, the people are, the diversity of thought, diversity of people in America. And that's what has made America to be a great country today. And America is saying, you can't rely on me anymore. You can't, I can't carry the weight of the world anymore. And that is changing. The foreign policy of America is changing. The trade policy of America is changing. And the earlier the world realizes that and does something about it by strengthening the economy internally and diversifying their potentials across the globe, the better for them. And it's not just by saying it, it's by acting it. It's by doing something around it. Part of what the Canadian government would say is, okay, they are building strong, they're building infrastructure projects. There's a railway that's going to come from Quebec, goes through down to downtown Toronto. And now they're also having conversation that there's going to be a stop at Kingston. And Kingston is one of the, cities in the province of Ontario. I mean, with all of this, they are good initiatives, But it's not just about talking about it. It's mainly about doing something about implementing this project, making them, come to reality. The other potential project that has been discussed about the expansion of ports in British Columbia and some other projects across the country. And some provinces are also taking initiatives around building Canada strong. I also believe that the province still has a way. They need to do a few things, in my opinion. One of the things they need to do is the province, even down to the municipal, is the ability to lessen the bureaucracy or losing the bureaucracy when it comes to building of houses. Because you want to build a house, there are so many permits that you need to get as a builder. It's very discouraging. You need to, cut those bureaucracy in building. Let construction companies be able to build as fast as possible, because Canada has a vast land. I mean, in terms of landscape here, sometimes I drive through the country, even within my city, and I'm amazed. Sometimes you just as if you're driving through the forest, and I'm confused that, oh, you have this vast amount of land, and you're still saying people are homeless. Like there's people, you can't build. Is, in my opinion, is a bit pathetic. Like, it's worrisome. And government needs to do something about, the building. In my opinion, they need to lessen permits when it comes to builders, having to construct residential houses, condos, and the likes. And also, in my opinion, I feel strongly that they need to, for this province, to also I mean, not even lessen this time around, reduce, or not even reduce, like eradicate. You have to completely remove provincial barriers to doing businesses. I mean, for work, for career. Sometimes it's kind of, weird that you find some professionals in particular provinces, they can't practice in other provinces. Is weird, right? Maybe if you're even a truck driver and you have some, requirements when it comes to your truck, things that you need to do, right? As a truck driver, putting your truck into a position, the whatever requirements that you need to follow when it comes to the tires, the whatever requirement is always different from one province to the other. I remember very well the first car I bought, my family, that we bought this car, and we had to do safety check on it. We did the safety check just at the border between uh, Ottawa and Quebec. And when we were to register the car at the city of Ottawa, yeah, they said they're not going to take the safety certificate that I got from Quebec, like literally in the same Canada. In the same Canada, I didn't get it from America. I didn't get it from, like, I didn't bring it from, Europe. I didn't bring it from Africa. I got it from the border of Ottawa. And you say you're not going to accept that? I was just shocked. And, it just amazes me while that is happening. It's weird. In the same Canada, I had to do another, and I had to get another safety certificate in order to have that car registered. It's weird. You are a doctor, you're a lawyer, you are into a very niche profession. You can practice in other provinces. These are the things that needs to be completely removed, eradicated, completely, taken off, where people can be able to work, travel across Canada without having to worry about the province that they are, that they are residing. So that's one thing I believe Canadians can do. For the America seems to be, integrated. Some of these barriers are not there for most American states. Should you have to, let's say, for instance, your lawyer, you are taking New York bar exam, for instance. At least when you got qualified, depending on the grade that you have, you can still be able to practice in quite a number of other states. Aside from New York, you might still be able to practice maybe in another six, seven, eight, nine, 10 states, in addition to New York, as it may be. Same with you being able to do businesses. You might have to, do some conversion in some areas, but it's not rigorous. It's not as hard as it is, in Canada compared to the States. So when we're looking at the relationship between this country, Canadians seems to be more dependent on America. Canada need America more than America actually needs Canada. That's the truth for sure, because American economy is the strongest in the world. So that's absolutely true. And at the same time, I think there's a common shared objective here. There's a common goal here that the two countries can actually, kind of find a way around it to work around it in such a way that at least they become, if they are not getting towards becoming friends, but at least getting back to negotiating table to talk about these issues and find a way to resolve this issue as it may be. um, so now the the current issue now, as it stands, is that the two countries are not talking. The negotiators from America are not talking with the state. With Canadian those negotiating for Canada are not also having conversations with the United States. So there's the negotiation now is stalled in some ways. I want to think that there are few factors that might most likely want to bring the two of them together. Now, when you take the United States, the midterm election might want to most likely bring back the Americans back to the negotiating table, because this tariff are going to continue to hurt the economy of the state, because again, these manufacturers, these companies are passing on tariffs to the consumers. And that is going to most likely be affecting the prices of goods. And why that continues is worrisome, because the government doesn't want goods to keep rising in prices and the like. So that could be a factor that might want to bring Americans back to the table. For the Canadians, I believe that part of the factors is also linked together, and that has to do with the fact that the Canadian government is also facing pressures. There are some elections now that are um, that are going to be happening, some by-elections in Quebec, for instance. Um, but again, the Americans are accusing the Canadians that the prime minister is using the tension they're having now as a leverage for them to get more votes uh, for the uh, for the by-elections in Quebec. Because again, there's this conversation around, oh, the Americans, they want the French language to be on the table, and the Canadians were like, "Oh, no, we don't want that. That's a stamping on our sovereignty. French language has been part of us for years, for decades. You can say that, French language should be on the table." And the Quebecers were very happy, that, the Liberal government are standing by them, and, they are doing the needful. They are not compromising, the French language in Canada. And the Americans with of the view, they share their own views too. Like, that was not a deal breaker for us. So even though some of those conversations might have just come up within the time that they're negotiating, but it wasn't a deal breaker. We didn't say that it has to happen, and and if it doesn't happen, then we forget about it. Okay, so I believe that perhaps maybe there must have been a breakdown of communication at that time. Like, there could have been a barrier of misunderstanding, at that point in time. It's either that is happening, that the Canadian side representatives are not getting the message as the Americans were presenting it, or maybe any of those two sides were just lying. Like literally, maybe the Canadian representatives are lying, all the Americans are lying. So because it has to be, it's either there was a misunderstanding or they're not saying the whole story. Like something must have been missing. And the people decide this, I mean, deserve to know. We deserve to know what is going on. We deserve to know how these negotiations are going. I also understand that the two parties, Americans and the Canadians, are not negotiating in public when it comes to the what is which sector is going to get relieved. What are they reducing the percentage to? Are they reducing it to 25%, 15%, or 10%, as the case may be, whether for auto or for steel and every other sector? None of the two parties are telling us what they are, reducing it to, or whatever they are giving away, because there's also been conversation around uh, the opposition, especially in Canada, asking that, okay, what are you giving? What are the concessions that you're making? Let us know what is the percentage. What was the original deal that broke down? Recall the house back, because the house now, I believe they are on recession, sorry, like a vacation kind of a thing. But I don't know. I don't have an idea of the date they're supposed to come back for the parliamentary sections and the likes. But there was a conversation around recalling back the members of the parliament earlier on so that they can have debates around the tariff. And I know that the government of Canada is not going to do that. In fact, it's going to be a distraction for them, in some ways. They might even want to prolong this as long as possible in order to get a good deal from the Americans before this parliamentary section resume. That's what I'm thinking, and ideally, that's what you will expect from a government to do. But again, the opposition will not want to buy into that. They want to have those conversations. They want to know how the government is negotiating and have input around it. And there's also been series of meetings among the premier with the prime minister, the premiers of all the provinces, the prime minister, uh, the the what's it called now, the opposition leaders, having conversation with phone calls with the prime ministers and getting some briefs and all of that. So these are the state at which the relationship between the US and Canada is now. And I just also need to mention that the name calling, the name changing is not is not the negotiation. The real topics has to start to happen. Then and those topics, those uh, the areas, I think the word is areas now, the real areas of conversation around negotiation has to start happening, rather than having to talk about Lake Ontario, Lake America, and all of that. I think most people just want to know what is this tariff is going to be, especially for businesses. They are facing uncertainty. They don't even know how to go around some of these issues. They just want clarity. They want to be able to plan ahead, because that's how businesses grows. And business grow based on projections. You want to be able to project for the next 6 months, 1 year, and know how things are going to look like for you. So they want to know, and that's something that will help businesses to grow. And that also feeds down to jobs, because when businesses are unable to predict and project into the future, and if they are worried about their bottom line. First, starting from their revenue, before we even talk about the bottom line, they might want to be thinking of laying off people, and people will lose their jobs in the midst of uncertainty. And that's not what we want. We want people to be able to have their jobs. We want people to be able to have their bills paid for, and people to be able to just do things and be happy, and let both sides be happy. The Canadians be happy, the Americans be happy. I have an independent opinion about this. I'm not going to be here and be saying that the state is at fault, or Canada is at fault. I think in trade war, it's necessarily about who is going to win. I think it's necessarily about the outcome for the ordinary people. What is going to be the outcome of this, tension between these two countries for the people? The people doesn't deserve to suffer. The people deserve an answers to some of the questions that they may have. The people really need to know what is going on. And again, I also commend the government. You don't necessarily have to negotiate in public, but get back to the table, get back to the negotiating table, continue to have those conversations, and as quickly as you can, come up with a deal, let people know what they're going to have as tariff, let businesses plan ahead and just walk around this tariff. I know that Canadian government is also having their own counter tariff that is going to be effective September 8th, a day after the Labor Day. And again, these are tariff that is going to be going back to the consumers as taxes, because manufacturers are or business owners are going to pass on this tariff to the consumers, and they're going to most likely pay for it. And we learned that a few days ago, the government of Canada removed some products, some goods from the tariff, or from the initial tariff list that they have. I think they removed the fishery because they believe that it's going to affect the restaurants businesses who are already suffering. The restaurant businesses are one of the most hit in all these issues. Starting from COVID, they started losing businesses. A lot of restaurant owners have closed their shops, they've closed their restaurants, they've run into debt, they ran into issues. Some people that are indebted to they're like vendors to these restaurants. They lost their businesses as well. A lot of stakeholders were affected in the restaurant businesses. And the restaurant business is really, really struggling. And if you ask business planners, business, especially for those that are not familiar about Canada and or even familiar about the United States, if you feel that the restaurant business is one of the easiest business you can venture into as a citizen or as a resident here, you will be missing it. Like the numbers, the statistics are never in favor of that business. They are never. You know how many restaurants closed within a year of starting off? The percentage rate of success for any restaurant business within 2 to 5 years is less than 20%. Like, I don't have the exact numbers, but I do know that the rate at which the restaurant business successfully carry on their businesses is really, really low. And government is seeing the handwriting on the wall that when you begin to start goods, not tax tariff actually, this goods in this area is going to out them the more. And I think I believe they removed that 2 3 days ago from the list, from the tariff list. And yesterday we also learned that they're adding some other goods on the list, because again, the government keeps saying they are consulting with the stakeholders in these industries. They keep having conversations. We're having conversations, with businesses, with leaders, in this industry, and we wanted to know what their views are before we come up with the final list that will become effective September 8th. Again, this tariff, counter tariff are going to be taxes on the people. It's just very unfortunate that this is getting to this point within Canada and the US. But we believe that as things goes by, as days goes by, as week goes by, I just hope that it's not going to drag into months. I just want to believe that within weeks this should be sorted out, and both parties to go back to negotiating tables and get the best deal they can get for their countries. Because again, they want the best deal for their people. And that's how it should go, right? The Americans want the best deal for their people as well. The Canadians want the best deal, for their people. And so the most important thing is to ensure that it's a win-win situation, win-win conversation, win-win for both parties when the final results of this deal comes into effect. So yeah, so I'm so excited about this particular topic that we are having a conversation around now. Uh, Definitely, please, if you're watching, please, the brain teaser is there for us. Let's just count. Let me know how many diaries you're seeing on the shelf, and I'll be back very soon. I just want to take a quick break, and we'll move to the next conversation, which is the next topic. See you guys soon, maybe in the next 10 minutes thereabout. Welcome back, guys. Very nice to be back. Just a second. Oh, yeah. Just a second. So I'm going to put some questions in the chat. You can tell us where you're watching from, the continent you're watching from. Where are you watching from? Let us know. So what do you think government should do? That's the government of, I know that, there have been some suggestion around build. Um, Canada needs to be more open about the real issue of this trade war. Okay, so what do you think government should do? That's the next question. So thank you for suggesting. Okay. I'm going to be putting on the chart at some point what you think today open diary. What should today open diary discuss next? What do you think we should discuss next? Or for the next couple of days, from yesterday to today, and most likely on Monday, we'll stick to these three topics. We're actually stuck with these three topics: Canada-US relation. And the second one has to do with the rising cost of living and how we can address affordability. And the third, obviously, is this Nepal um, flat flood issues. I'm gonna dive into those two topics very soon. And once we're done with conversation around these three topics, then we can please suggest. We are very open to your suggestions. Some of the things we can talk about. Immigration, okay, which is good. Some of the policies around immigration in Canada and the States are rapidly changing. So it would be nice to talk about that going forward. Thank you. Now, affordability in Canada and the US, rising cost of living. I mean, is not is not is not a is not in news anymore. Like every day, the cost of living is rising. Uh, the rising cost of living, let's say for instance, in Ontario, average about 3,000 to $3,300 to $4,000 per month for a single person, and between 8,600 to like $8,000 for a family of four. When you put into consideration rent, you put rent into consideration, rent, you consider um, mortgage, if for those that also have rent, you consider things around your insurance, you consider other bills, is really, really telling on people, it's really telling on families. The cost, the rising cost of living, I'm just using Ontario for instance, like to start with. Rent and mortgage remains the highest. Like, it's so ridiculous sometimes when you talk about rent, because rent is, it just started dropping recently, but it's really, really rise in the last couple of years. Then when you fizzle it down to grocery, the food prices are roughly nearly 30% higher compared to like 5 years ago. Family depends so much on food to eat. And the numbers of people going to food bank is really like rising, like it's so high that families has to rely on banks, within their neighborhood, because the cost of grocery is so high. At the same time, the other rising cost of living is that you're talking about tariff and this trade war, which we just mentioned, and especially this uncertainty around what's the percentage for steel, for also for ordinary goods that you buy, for daily living, they're all rising, and the income is stagnant. Like your salary is the same, their wages are the same. They are not being increased by the employers. And again, we have to understand the cost of this the causes. If we talk about the causes of rising, cost of living in Canada and the US, a lot of people would tell you that the rising cost of living in Ontario, in Canada, in America, is primarily driven by micro level trade disruption. Then this issue around structural housing such shortage as well, because they are not building as the way with the number of the people that are here. And that's why you find out that the government is also trying to find a way to cut immigration, like to reduce the number of especially temporary residents, and some government, some of like American government are even stopped that completely. Like, but the Canadian government is just cutting into half the temporary resident visas, like for students, for tourists, for visitors. You know, these are like creating pressure, like the shortage of housing, compounding supply chain pressure as well, the widening gap between average corporate profits and, again, the local wage growth. So overall, inflation has leveled up so high. Now we're seeing inflation between around 2% to 3%, for the past couple of years, as a result of pandemic, as a result of, so it all started from, COVID, and it also remained the same after COVID, post-COVID, and now we're having all this tariff at the same time. So then again, with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which also increases gas prices. They are all factors that are causing rising, cost of living in Canada and the States. And if you take the United States, almost the same causes. Like you take the US one, the US issues is such that in an average uh, Americans, if you narrow it down, let's say even to New York, because it would take the whole of America as a whole, because New York is also another is a state in America that is the cost of living is really high. Um, Not to compare with California though, because again, that is even ridiculous. So for an average American, roughly they have to spend 38 about $4,000 for 3,800 to about $4,000 per month for a single adult, and for a family they will be spending roughly around 6,400 to about $9,800 just to survive, just to pay basic needs. And then there are over 76 Americans, they cite the cost of living as a primary economic problem for them. And the major problem for most Americans is, and Canadians inclusive, is that people live on debt. Line of credit is a major problem. Is a major problem, and that usually starts from high school, where um, students who are graduating from high school has to take student loan to get into college, to get into universities. And that's where the problems start from. Like literally before they even graduate, they have, debt already knocking at their doors, waiting to be serviced. On top of that, families have been, I mean, individuals have been, uh, I will use the word, I don't want to say brainwash, but like boxed into a corner of the idea that you have to get a mortgage and you have to start, having a house of your own to live there. It's usually worked out for a lot of families, say in the past and all of that, but with the rising interest rate and inflation almost at the same time, because again, they use interest rate to fight inflation. That's what Fed does. And Bank of Canada, that's what they do, fighting inflation and getting it under control is by raising interest rate. And the interest rates on this mortgage are high, and people has to pay mortgage for the next 25 years, 30 years, 35 years of their lives. And that is still debt. You keep servicing debt month over month, and there are other costs associated with it, with this particular debt we're talking about. And the worst debt that you can ever think of that people usually even subject themselves into is consumer debt. People keep consuming debt, credit cards. Some people has like two, three, four credit cards. They've maxed it out, they use it, and they are gonna come knocking at your door to pay off this debt. And when people keep buying stuff they don't need, then in the next couple of years, they will face the music, because again, you can't just keep using credit cards. And that's one of the major issues that people are facing today, families are facing today. Yeah, and the consumer debt is something that is not a go area. And for most immigrants, like if I use myself as an example, we come from a cash economy. If you don't have the money, that means you can't afford it. Simple, plain and truth. If you don't have the money to buy something, why should you buy it on credit? Like, you can buy stuff on credit that you need, but not to continue to buy everything on credit because it's not a free lunch. You are going to have to pay for it at some point. And if you don't pay for it, the interest on this credit line of credits are usually very high. Pay 15%, 20%, in some cases, 20 something percent, 25% on your credit cards. And to worsen the case, most people don't read the terms and conditions. They don't read in between the lines to understand the consequences of defaulting, of not paying as at when due, because you're going to be given a time frame to which this credit should be paid. And if you don't pay in time, then you lose what we call credit score. Your credit score is going to drop, and that's going to affect you buying some other stuff that you need once they ask for the credit or credit scores. That may affect you when you needed to go rent another house. If you have to leave where you're living, if you have to leave where you are now to get another house, to rent another house, if you want to get a mortgage, your credit score is very low, it's a problem. So the earlier you service your debt, the better. Someone called me, I believe it was 2 days ago, and she wanted to have a conversation. I said, "Oh, sure, I'm happy to have a conversation with her." And the conversation started with, she has some money now, she has some debt as well, but she wants to invest her money. And I let her know that I'm not a financial advisor. Uh, Everything I'm going to say, just like a suggestion. You might choose to do it, you might choose not to do it. It's your choice. So at the end of the day, you make your choice. But this is not a financial advice. It's not a legal advice in any way of to say go do it. And one of the things I said was that, well, what is your investment philosophy? What are you trying to achieve here? Are you looking forward to investing for a long time, or you're investing for a short time? She said both. I said good. So long time maybe towards your retirement, and short time towards a particular project you want to execute. She said, yeah. And I said, do you have any debt? And she said, yeah, she has student loan she's going to service, and she also have some other line of credit. I said, okay, those line of credits you have, how many are they? She mentioned the number of credit that she has. Obviously, there are substantial amounts of money that she needs to service. And she was like, okay, she wanted to use some of the money she has now to invest. And I said, no, that's, in my opinion, if you ask me, that's not what I'm going to do. But the first thing I'm going to do is to pay off this debt. Because if you're talking about short-term investment, short-term investment is such that there's no way any short-term investment within a year, 12-month calendar, there's no way it's going to give you uh, more than seven. If you are able to get 6, 7% within 6 months for any investment, you're very lucky, because you won't get it. Here in Canada, the GIC, this guarantee investment certificate that everybody just kind of jump into. When I first came to Canada, the interests were very high. They were like 5%, 5.5%. That was even for 2 years in a row. Now you hardly get them for 3%, because you're talking about investing. That's within 6 months, you're not going to be able to get up to 6% interest on that investment. And if you do treasury bill or you invest in bonds, you're still not going to get a high percent. You're not going to get 6%. You're not even going to get 5% within 6 months. And this debt, this line of credit that you have, they are in double-digit numbers. They're in double-digit percentage. So it makes sense to just pay off the debt first. Clear up the debt. Spend the next 6 months paying off this debt, especially the consumer debt, pay it off. And when you pay off the consumer debt, that's for a short. So there's no point in investing for a short period of time while the interest on the consumer debt keep climbing at double digits. Okay. And this is still part of cost of living, affordability for families, for individuals. Okay. So again, pay off the debt. When you're done with the payment of the debt, then you cannot come back to investing. Okay. And but thankfully she said she kind of agrees. It's something that she would definitely want to do and clear up the consumer debt. You know, when people have uh, the mortgage, they are still debt, but they are good debts. You know, you have good debts, you have bad debts. And those ones are still good in some ways because, I mean, you're still investing into properties or properties if you have more than one. And at the same time, you know, you still be able to have some values on those properties as they rise. You know, so cost of living is affecting people here. And if you are residing here, you understand definitely what I'm talking about. Uh, Again, there are some primary drivers of the US cost of living. Part of it also is this. There's a Canadian one which I just mentioned as well. Then this American one is also the shelter and rent distortion. Housing consumed the largest shares of household debts, like budgets in America as well. In America, people spend sometimes over $2,000 on renting a house. And again, this is not common in the States. It's also very common in Canada as well. These are issues that are affecting families. These are issues that are affecting people, individuals, as the case may be. And again, city also differs. So if you are, I've seen people leave city for another city just because of cost of living. Some people might decide to leave a place like, let's say, uh, heavily populated city, like you take Canada, for instance, want to leave Toronto or maybe Mississauga to move to places farther away, let's say St. Catherine, or maybe move to Oshawa, or maybe move to Hamilton, or maybe move to Brantford, or even maybe move into other interior cities where the cost of living is really low. But there's a trade-off. You might be able to get your rent cheap there, but there are some other bills that will most likely go up. Let's say for grocery, should you have to buy a loaf of bread for $6? $6 is on the high side. Let's say a loaf of bread for $2. Okay, in the city, you might be getting it almost at double in the small town that you move to. You know, because again, the owners of those convenience stores will factor in cost of transportation into those small towns. So you are cutting on rent, okay? But when it comes to your groceries, you're going to pay a little bit more, okay? And some other facilities might not be readily available for you to be able to just walk through. If you're in a city, you might be able to walk, literally into your doctor's office for appointments. You might be able to take your kids, like walk 10, 15 minutes to their indoor soccer, hockey centers very easily. You might be able to walk to even go buy your grocery or maybe do one or two things. But when you're in small towns, you might have to drive miles away, several kilometers to be able to get there. So that's you burning gas, and they are, cents, they are fuel cents and dollars that's going to add up to your cost of living. So just so you know, is a trade-off. You can have both. So if you're thinking of, oh, I'm just going to go into remote city and small towns. I'm going to just live there and pay rent, $800 or $1,000. I'm going to cut off on a monthly basis. I'm going to cut off $1,000. Yeah, you cut off rent, but there are other, bills that comes up with it, as it may be. So you have to factor that into uh, into your calculation. And I always encourage families to have a budget, like every quarter, try and review your budget. That keeps you in between lines to be able to know that what you're spending your money on, and that keeps you in check. You may not necessarily start off with having it dotted and just professionally crafted or drafted. No, you don't have to, but you could just have it like a kind of a Excel list kind of a thing where it just give you a track of what you're spending your money on and what you don't need to spend your money on and what you need to spend your money on. So it just kind of guide a little bit on how best your money should be spent. But again, I won't also advise that you just move into big city. If you want to move into big city, it's cool. Single people are usually advised to do that because it's easier for you to just navigate with the city. You could just get a condo, one small one room condo. You're there by yourself. Easier for you to get a job within the city. Most of the jobs that people are seeking for in New York City. If you're in New York City, it's easier for you to get a job in downtown. Toronto, the same thing. Vancouver, the same thing. Name Los Angeles, the downtown. Very easy to get a job there because as a single person, you just be there by yourself. Again, for families, when it comes to cost of living, affordability, downtown might not be the idea for you. You might be looking at it and say, okay, can I be able to raise family here in downtown, where you see all those social vibes around you? You don't want your kids to continue to see all of those stuffs, like addictions, to drugs, homelessness, people just wandering around and having to face their challenges and stuff like that. So uh, the population is so high, the number of people on the streets, the crime rate and all of that. You don't want your kids to be exposed to that. But then again, there are family that still lives in those places, so they always work around it, figure it out for themselves. I mean, one particular there's no one size fits all for any situation, right? You just have to consider what will work best for you, what will work best for your family, if you have one, and the like. So then my own take is that when it comes to cost of living, is different from singles to family and is really rising now. But we do understand that there are still some other hidden budgets that squeeze people's pockets, like city taxes. Some people might decide to, buy a house in a city where they know, or even a province where they know that the taxes are relatively very low. So you need to consult, you need to find out, do your research on which city will give you the best taxes when you should buy a house within that city. Because unlike most, for instance, US city, New York residents, for instance, they pay a local and this New York City personal income tax rating around 3% on top of the state and federal obligations taxes that they pay. On top of that, so you pay 3% for the local personal income tax ranging for around 3% to nearly 4%. And you still have to pay the federal and the state obligations, when it comes to taxes for your work as a self-employed person. You pay taxes as well. If you are working, you also pay taxes. But the state income taxes for me, is still better a little bit compared to Canadian taxes, because Canadian taxes, it seems to be high, you know. But the trade-off again is that in Canada, you your health care, you might have them for free. Like I'll give a very good example. You give birth to a child here. When we give back to a child here, we don't have to pay a dime. Like we didn't pay a cent at the hospital. Everything was free. If you're a Canadian, or you're a permanent resident, or even some other people that have those benefits, that they just have it free here, and there's some other benefit that comes with it as well. But that benefit is not in the state, for instance. But the trade-off again is that some jobs in the state are well paid. In fact, most jobs actually are well paid in the States when you compare it to Canada. I've seen some students who are in colleges now, in university. In fact, the other time I decided to catch was it the bus or the train? I think it was the bus that particular day. Yeah, it was the bus. And I was about to get into the bus, and I met a very young guy, and he was telling me about how he's prepping himself to get a job in the state. Why? Because he believes that you stand the chances of earning more. And he's a young guy, he gets his head, he gets his stuff together, get himself together, and for him to go to the state and get a good job for himself, start saving, start investing early on in his career, will really help him to achieve most of his goals that he has set for himself. And that's very cool, for a young guy planning his future. It was really, really inspiring to me. And I encourage him to go for whatever, will make him happy, and whatever will make him fulfill in his life. So that's a young guy already factoring how best he can get the best for himself. So I mean, we address how can we address this issue? There are several solutions that are most likely being uh, you know presented even at the government level. I think government has the heavyweight lifting here. The government has to find a way to reduce housing cost. Uh, the government has a way of addressing the rising cost of housing in Canada and US. Then government has the responsibility of reducing taxes, like even starting from income taxes, maybe give tax holidays. That's another way to go. Government has a way of, you know, maybe for instance, adjusting some of these expenses or percentage of taxes that they pay, that people has to pay, and even developers. If they start from the developers, it might have a way of a way if their taxes and then permits cost or developmental cost generally, if they are reduced, then obviously they're going to be able to um, reduce the prices on the houses as well. And we are the ones, the people, the citizens are the ones that are going to buy these houses. So they buy it at a very reduced rate. So I mean, government has a very is like the is the main the government is the main party here that needs to help out in reducing affordability. Sometimes government has give some grocery in Canada, for instance, they're giving some uh, like benefits, one-time benefit for people, for family, sometimes maybe $500, sometimes maybe low, just give it to families to use. to for grocery, but they are just one-time grocery kind of benefit, and they don't even go a long way to support families. That's another challenge for most family. So there have to be policies around these measures around this how affordability or how rising costs of living, so that people will be able to say, yeah, government is doing something for them. Government is helping them. And I think there should also be a collaboration between the federal, the state, and the municipal working all together. Or in the case of Canada, the federal, the province, and the city working together in addressing affordability, in addressing affordability. So that's key, as it was. So individuals, for individuals and families, I believe that the way they can address this is they should manage the cost they're living, their cost of living themselves. And they should maybe start from budgeting, which I've mentioned earlier on. It could just be generic kind of budgeting, then try to um, trying to also adopt and implement the budget is another thing, because again, one thing is to have the budget written down. Another thing is to really work within your budget, you know. So it's not enough to just put pen to paper, but it becomes much more important when you're very conscious of what you put to paper. And just structural sound financial habits is what is needed. And part of what can be done is that single individuals in Canada or in the US could face a unique financial burden. Um, let's say, like uh, things around household. Let's say if you are a single person, you might not be able to share your apartment with anyone. You have to pay the rent by yourself. But if you're a couple, you can split fixed household costs like rent, like internet, like utilities. You can split those costs. But as a single person, you might not be able to split your rent because you have a rent, you pay it all by yourself. But the way you can go about that is to not rent uh, um, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms kind of a thing, but for you to just rent maybe a condo or a very small apartment that is, that the price is low, so the rent is low, and you can keep, paying as well. But families have that leisure of, splitting fixed household cost. And I mean, families are even that even have a joint financial responsibility, joint account, and all of that, are already pulling everything together just to help each other. And at the same time, is for single people to one of the things they can do is to strategically share rooms, share living with other folks. You know, um, Maybe like a standalone studio of a thing, or maybe a one-bedroom apartment. You can have those a house, divided into units, and you can take maybe a one-bedroom out of it all, out of the multiple bedroom house kind of a thing. That way, you are able to just cut down your cost as it may be. Then there's other this first home buyer savings account, and then register retirement savings plan, RRSP contribution is what single people can also, you know, uh, take advantage of, especially if you are buying houses in Canada. The FHSA is one account you can take advantage of, but you have to know that whatever you put into that account goes into the house you tend to buy. If you are intending to, if you think you can use that money for something else, it's not going to happen. It has to be for the house you are intending to buy in Canada. Then the other thing is the action I think family can take beyond single people is that family can also maximize the child benefit. This Canada Child Benefit (CCB) is a tax-free monthly payment made to eligible families to just help them with the cost of raising their children. The CCB is given to family based on their income and the financial situations at the time, and is automatically deposited into the account of the family on behalf of the child every month. So that's one action plan for families who have not yet applied for their CCB. And for the CCB, the interesting thing is that even if you have not applied in the last maybe 2 years or 1.5 years of having your child, you can still be able to apply, and and you're going to have all the benefits accrued and paid back to you all at once. I remember one of my friends didn't apply deliberately. He did not apply for his CCB in time. Deliberately, it was after over a year that he applied for it, and they paid all the backlog at the same time. And you can use the bulk of the money to just invest for the child. You can put it in any other investment account designed by the government for that purpose. And government has a way of also giving kids some like initial, capital or kind of thing to just help, keep the accounts open and start as a starting point. And you can just put a lump sum into it. And if you applying earlier on, you can, just take that money and use it for whatever purpose is going to help you raise your kids. And if you have to use it for day-to-day living for your kids, it's all good because that's what the money is even meant for in the first place, just to help cushion the cost of raising your child. Then the other thing is also this subsidy that comes from maybe the province. Some provinces has subsidies for families. You should take advantage of them depending on your financial situation. Like in Ontario has what we call this Ontario Works. You can, contact them and see if you qualified or you meet some of the requirements or you're eligible in any ways to be taken into consideration. Then again, it's just a way of, helping you out in some ways. Some community also have this uh, community like kind of children toys, sports, gears, things around items, materials that you can get from them within your local community. You can check maybe Facebook, you can check those marketplaces. And I also usually encourage people when you get to a city, join those groups. They will tell you some of the things that the city is doing just to support families, to help people, and just to help them get by. Some of them may have these winter jackets that you can go there buy at a subsidized rate. Some of them could be free. Just check within your local community within your city and see if you can qualify for some of these benefits. And again, there's no one size fits all for some of these suggestions. But one thing that is good here and to map out how some of the, or recap some of the conversation around cost of living. The first major thing which kind of outline is budgeting for individuals and families. Try to, have a budget and what is your approximate monthly household income and see how that can fit into your budget and see how you can also invest some of your money because you don't want to just keep spending the money on cost, on your bills. You want to be able to save some of this money for the future so that when you get to a point where you needed to uh, embark on some certain projects, you're not stuck. You are able to have money saved, have money invested for that purpose, and you can use it for that purpose. But if one is not saving, if one is not investing and just putting all of those money into cost and bills, then it's a challenge. And that's why budget is needed. And uh, that's why saving and investing is also needed. So based on your household net income, you have something saved, something reserved for the future. So then again, there are some other things to avoid, like anything that will create big financial deficit for you. Avoid them as much as you can. One of the things I try to avoid is line of credit. When you keep piling line of credits, especially for consumer debt is a huge problem. And try as much as possible to avoid that as much as you can. And that leads us to the final part of our conversation today. And for the next couple of minutes that we have, a few minutes that we have, we are going to look at Nepal. No, Nepal. Paul is the last topic for today. We are just going to be giving update around that as well. Is really devastating out there in Nepal, and there are quite a number of live updates that we gave yesterday, and we also encourage families who are in search of their loved ones in Nepal to contact certain numbers we gave out yesterday. If you are not here yesterday, I will encourage you to check some other news feeds updates. You will be able to find some of those numbers, and maybe before we leave today, perhaps I'll be able to give out those numbers, phone numbers you can call, and there's some emails that you can also reach out to the government if you are residing in Canada or United States and you have a family in Nepal. um, there are numbers you can call to get updates on your loved ones. And if you're outside of Canada and US, there are some numbers you can call as well, phone numbers that will be able to give you updates on the situation of things out there. There are numbers, circulating the internet from the government, just so people can be able to know what's going on. And these phone numbers are toll free. You don't have to pay anything for them. And if you are a tourist and you are in Nepal, you also have an email that you can use to quickly contact the government and give them updates on your status and the tourist organization company that you're using so that they can quickly, as much as possible, be able to contact you and be able to give you the support, the help that you need at this time. So things are really, really happening so fast. Um, I mean, it's really devastating out there. The first thing I want to say is that our prayers and thoughts are with these people. You're not alone. Just so you know, helps and not just on the way, help are already arriving from different parts of the world and from the US, from China, because this incident happened in between the border of Nepal and China. And they are also collaborating and finding a way to help people in this difficult, very difficult moment that people are facing. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. We believe that things will get better, even though this is not what anybody is asking or seeking for. But we hope that you'll be able to find the strength that you needed at this time, that everybody needs at this time. We pray that everybody will be able to find strength at this time. So rescue efforts are still on the way. It's the fourth day of this flash flood that happens in Nepal. There are a lot of strugglings there and there to cope with the number of uh, debris, bodies that has been washed away, or sadly, by this flash flood. And there are at least 3,000 people are now missing. The numbers, I was hoping yesterday that this number will not go off the roof. If you're able to join us yesterday, we mentioned the fact that we hope that this number doesn't go off the roof. It seems to me that this number is really climbing. Over 3,000 people now are missing from this flash flooding in Nepal and China border. And I hope that it doesn't rain. There's a fear that there might be rain today, and there may be rain tomorrow, because if it rains, oh my goodness, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be terrible. We're just hoping that God in His infinite mercy will just put a stop to a rain at this time, and a lot of people has been moved out of that location, and the rescue from that is seen. But again, there are still some other effort to recover people's body, so that people can be able to identify the body of their loved ones and give them the proper burial that they so deserve. So more than 600 people have been killed from this incident, and it's really, really sad for everyone at this time. The government of Nepal say that he has reached out to foreign governments, including the United States government, for specialized assistance, and how this authority, they're also telling them how they are struggling to cope with this number of recovered bodies. And they're also planning to find a way to bury those that are, like, unfortunately, uh, they can't be identified. Their body cannot be identified. They find a way to just do a mass burial for them. This is really, really sad. And there are people lose homes, lose properties, but again, lives is so precious that sometimes when you lose properties, you lose your cars, you lose your houses, you can always still rebuild, because again, this community will be able to rebuild back again and get back to their normal lives uh, at some point in their lives. But then it's sad that over 300, 600 bodies have been confirmed dead, and over 3,000 remains missing. The other side thing to hit is that the Canadian government mentioned that they have identified 32 people missing, because the American numbers is higher than that, obviously. But the thing is that these are tourists. These are people that travel there, for vacation and to explore that place. But in the course of this happened today. It's so unfortunate that this is happening to the people, but that's traveled there as well. The locals are the most hit. But the government of Nepal seems to be doing what they can do best. All the military, the authorities that are involved in this rescue mission have really, really been trying their best. And there are a lot of people that has been deployed, servicemen that has been deployed to this scene, to this area, just to help people out. Because again, this area is a remote area. It remains difficult to even reach some of those people in that place. And what part of what they are doing now is to use a helicopter and fly in, to that place, and find a way to see if they can, see somebody that was trapped somewhere that they can rescue, or maybe they can able to find some bodies and be able to, bring them out from that place, as it were. So, I mean, there are a lot of help there and there as well, beyond the government of Nepal, are doing what they know they can do best. There's help from China, from India, and from South Korea, and America is also helping out in as much as they can in this relief operation, as it were. So again, in total, we have a lot of people are missing. Over 3,000 people are missing. Over 600 are dead, and there are still about 900 people trapped in this hydropower tunnel in Nepal. Nepal. Hopefully, they are able to get them out as soon as possible. So this challenging time. Some people believe that the climate is changing, things are moving very fast, and we seem not to be concerned about the incident, but about the climate change. But again, we can't live in denial of climate change. At the same time, we just have to do what we need to do. And as I was saying earlier on, there's a real-time message update that is coming that the nearly 900 Nepal employees who have been working on the hydropower project are missing in the flooding, according to the details compiled earlier on by the Independent Power Producer Association of Nepal, and that about 360, over 360 of them from the industry have been rescued. So that's a good news. So uh, that's about nearly half of them has been rescued. That's good news. We hope that more people will be rescued from this where they are trapped. These workers where they are trapped. We hope that they will go back to their families as soon as possible. So I mean, my fear is that there should be no rain, over this weekend, so that they can use today and tomorrow to quickly as possible ramp up their operation within that area, be able to get these people out of this place that they were trapped. And I know that some of them were unreachable because there's no internet, there's no phone calls, there's no signal to reach them because again, they are trapped in a tunnel. To rescue them from this tunnel is really, really challenging. But we know that with the help from everywhere, India, China, and United States, these people will be rescued and they'll be able to unite back with their families. And the other news we are finding is that is the flood has hit this Nepal growing electricity industry as a result, with at least 12 hydropower projects left out of action due to the disaster. And people doesn't even have electricity. There's no way they could even have electricity. People, some people don't have, there's no way they even have water because everywhere is just a mess. But we just hope that people will find help as soon as possible. We pray that we hope people will be fine. So it's really good to give this update, but we hope that meeting again on Monday, we will have a better update as far as this incident is concerned, in Nepal. I hope that they are able to find as many as possible that are missing and that are still alive, rescue them alive so that they can go back to their homes, and rebuild in some ways. It's really, really sad. Saddened. I know a lot of people out there are really, really saddened. And this is not what we pray for or hope for in any way, you know. But I'm happy that there's a collaborative effort in doing what is needful in this rescue mission. There seems to be other live reporting, on what is going on there. I know that there are some accusation there and there, uh, but we don't want to go into, different, comments and then accusation and all of that, because I think Nepal um, media and on online platform, they accuse of his failing to warn Nepal of the mudslide disaster. I think China is also rebutting what is called the recent comment, the Nepali media and online platform accusing of failing to warn Nepal of the mudslide disaster. So a statement from I'm just reading from online now, which is just fresh news. A statement from the spokesperson of the embassy posted on X says Nepal and China have maintained close communication on transborder disaster management. So it mentions a meeting between government agencies from both sides in May made substantial progress in promoting establishment of a transborder disaster information sharing mechanism. This is just China rejecting that accusation that they are not communicating enough or they are not cooperating enough with Nepal. And I believe it's the message was just coming was circulating online in Nepal that there's no close relationship on that front, but China is rejecting that claim. And then they also mentioned, I'm just reading BBC live news now. So some senior officials in Nepal told BBC, despite such occasional meeting engaging with the Chinese side for potential disaster related information has not been so easy. So again, I think for me, if you ask me, it's really not about pointing fingers and accusing this party and thinking that, oh, you didn't do your job, you didn't do did my job and all of that. That's not what is needed at this time. What is needed at this time is coordination, collaboration. What is needed at this time is to find a way to work together as a team to be able to rescue these people, to be able to bring them out of their distresses. Because we just mentioned now that they are idle workers that are trapped. Let's find a way to get them out and get them out as fast as possible. These are what is needed at this time. There's no need to point fingers or accuse this party or that. What is needed is a coordinated effort to bring everybody together to find a way to resolve this matter by, rescuing people. And even those that are alive, they need urgent rescue. Bring them alive as quickly as possible. The longer they stay there, the longer the chances of them losing their lives. So we don't want that. Then the other side to it is that if those people that are already missing, if they're able to get their bodies out in time, their families is happy. Their family will be happy because for them, that's the joy. The joy they're going to be having now is that their government is doing something to bring the body of their loved one house so that they can give them, befitting burial. They can bury them properly. They can have a closure or in that front. It's more devastating for families to have their loved one missing than to have than to have them bodies. If they are able to have their bodies, they are at least happy that there's a closure from that hand. So this is not the time to point fingers and accuse the government of China, accuse the government of Nepal, accuse this one, accuse that one. This is a time to join forces and do something about it. So, and we are very grateful that people are joining. So thank you for joining. I know you joined later. Sorry to Sandra. Sandra Mary said I joined later, late. It's so good. So just a very quick recap because I'm very happy to read comment here. A very quick recap is that we talk about the government of Canada and the government of US, having to work together in this trade tension, in this trade relationship, giving an update in that front. There are a lot of name calling and name change and all of that, but we don't also need much of those. What we need now is for the two parties to go get back to negotiating table, have conversation around what they are giving up with the concession they are making and what is going to be the percentage of tariff that goes into, all of these sectors, so that way people are able to, plan their lives. Even businesses can be able to plan, project into their future, and there will be no uncertainty there and there. So our own live stream is also a way of letting people, ordinary people, know how best they can, gear up themselves, put themselves together in this trade war that is going on between Canada and the US, and how they can keep their jobs, keep their cost of living low. So that leads us to the second topic that we talk about today, which has to do with also on the cost of living, affordability, how to bring that down, and then how to ensure that people are, well prepared for instances like this, and how they can put their budget together to be able to tackle affordability. We find a way and finding a way around reducing cost and maximizing their incomes, as it were, and then maybe having a budget around it and having to, work as a team. If you have a family, coordinated effort towards working around all of this as well. So it's a whole lot of issues that we are facing in North America, in Canada. These issues are not going anywhere for now, but we hope that in the coming weeks this issue can resolve. And the trade war is tied to affordability as well, because trade war is increasing, cost of living, and coupled with the Strait of Hormuz, closure and stuff like that, is really telling on families. So we hope that the government of Canada and the government of the United States can get back to the negotiating table. They can start having those conversations, and then find a way to resolve their differences and close the gap, and that has been, created in the last couple of days, as it were. And our hope and prayers are with people of Nepal, and those that are outside of Nepal that have families or friends or people that have traveled there for one reason or the other, especially tourists that have, caught off in this flash flood, and then they lost their lives or they are missing at this time. We just hope that things get better and better for them as well. So we are happy that this channel is taking off. We're happy that people are joining us live. We're very happy also that people are engaging, and we definitely hope that you will join us again on Monday at 9:30. And definitely this conversation will continue on Wednesday next week, and it's going to continue most likely. We're going to be having to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, just to start with all those days in the week, and we'll continue with this conversation as it was. So thank you guys. We're very happy that you join us. Thank you all. Thank you everyone for joining. We're very appreciative of it. Thank you all. And please, yeah, go through the some of the videos. They are there or on the channel. You can read them. You can, sorry, you can watch them and leave a comment for us and likes. Thank you, everyone.